So I just listened to Lucky's new album, Gemini, and I have a lot of feelings and a lot of thoughts about it, things I want to talk about. Also, the main thing I really wanted to speak on is just how divisive I think his own fan base is becoming day by day, especially with this album more so than any other album. But I'm gonna be honest, I was pretty frustrated after hearing this album, and I just wanted to kind of vent and get all of my thoughts into a video because I know a lot of people feel the same way I do, but I don't think anyone, or not anyone, I don't think everyone is expressing it as clearly. And once I started kind of writing it all down, it started to make a lot more sense to me, visually seeing it. So that's what this video is going to be. Um, Also, it's just ridiculously hot in my room right now. Woo! So I'm feeling it. But besides that, this album I thought was pretty trash. I'm not even gonna lie. For context, Lucki is one of my favorite artists, one of my favorite rappers of all time. His music's been pretty special to me, and it's helped me in my life and a lot of my struggles and things I've gone through. Especially when it came to drinking. I'm almost 2 years sober, and listening to Lucky's music, it really just like I could relate to a lot of the things he was saying in regard to the mentality, right? And before I even go off on the tangent, I'll address this first. I don't think he has to be rapping about depression and being super sad in order for his music to be good. So I don't want people to assume that that's the narrative that I'm running with here. I'm speaking, I mean, I'll break it down all in points, but really we're talking about the music at the end of the day. That's what this is about. What am I listening to? You know what I mean? Let's address the divisiveness between the community. And by the community, I mean his own fans. I don't really just mean the average listeners, because I think Lucki has always kind of been somewhat of a niche artist in regard to the way that he raps and how monotone he can be. And just his sound. It's not like well, at least it wasn't for most of his career extremely commercial. But I'm saying all that to say, I think it's super interesting that there is so much division in between the community, considering that, in my personal opinion, his new style, when compared to his old style, it's not like more challenging. His new style is not more unique. His new style is not vastly different. Unfortunately, I want to just be honest. In my opinion, I think his new style, it just sounds kind of uninspired, and for lack of better words, sometimes it sounds just kind of mid. And I hate to say that because Lucki, like I said, is one of my favorite artists. But like when artists are trying new things, and when artists are coming up with new different sounds, and when artists are doing new things with their music, they're trying new beats, new instrumentals, new genres. I can understand something like that causing a lot of division in the community because it's just not like what people are accustomed to and what people are used to. But I think in regard to Lucki, it's a quality matter, not the music sounding vastly different, you know? I would love someone to explain to me how they think his new style is more challenging, more unique, or vastly different for there to be this much division in the community. Because it just would make no sense. I don't see why so many people would be feeling the way I feel when, in my own opinion, his new style, it just seems more like a watered down, more generic version of things that he's already done throughout his whole career. Like he's not doing anything new here. The only things I'd say he's doing new are things that aren't good, like just the quality being worse. uh, but yeah, and then another thing I think is interesting is just how angry people get about this conversation. Like, yeah, obviously I'm all on the side of like I like Lucky's older music better, but I mean I don't really care that much at the end of the day. Like it's not. I prefer obviously for him to be dropping good music. I love that. He's one of my favorite artists, but I don't like if you disagree with me, like more to you. I don't really care that much to attack people or just be like calling people stupid, saying like just crazy things because they think that new music is better. Like music will always be subjective at the end of the day. So that's just that. That's where that kind of ends. But I don't know why people get so triggered when it comes to this. And I think it just kind of ties back into the whole divisive thing I was talking about earlier because it's just like, why is it like that when it's not vastly different? Like for instance, like Young Thug, when he dropped "Beautiful Thugger Girls," it was like a country rap fusion album, right? And then I could see like a lot of the older fans being like, "Oh, we want that old Thug back. We want that 1017 Thug back, whatever." People that know what I'm talking about know what I'm talking about. With a more like ATL trap oriented, trippy, um, hypnotic things that he was coming up with. That's an example of something that I think is different than the prior music being released. Granted, I think both of those albums, for context, are amazing, but that's kind of what I'm trying to say here. Like, if you take Gemini and you compare Gemini to Free Wave 3, for instance, it's not like one album is a different genre. It's not like one is. If anything, I would say Free Wave 3 is more experimental. It definitely is with the beats and things like that in a good way. But I mean, he's not. Like, he's still using like the same kind of flows and cadences for the most part. I just think on his new stuff, he's just even more monotone and he sounds just way more uninspired, once again, like I've been saying. And in regard to the beats, I think all the beats on Gemini, not all of them literally, but like they kind of all sound the same. They kind of all bleed into one another, and not in a good way where it's like, oh, this album's really flowing, more in a way where it's like between that, him just saying the same things literally over and over again that just also sound uninspired and just kind of like he has nothing else better to even talk about, I guess, which I'm sure he does. I think it just makes it kind of just feel really lackluster. And I saw a comment on his Reddit I thought was hilarious where someone said it sounds like a rap caviar album. And that's not good. Like, at least for me, I don't think that's good. Like, obviously, that would, maybe you might think, oh, so it's like more mainstream. It's kind of, like it's more hits. I don't even think that. And I think when it comes to Lucki, the reason why he got in the status that he got in was because he was making music that was pretty unique. And he had his own sound that other people could not imitate because they just would sound bad. But when he did it, you just really were in this, at least me, like I'd be in a different universe, a different zone. I'm hearing this, I could relate to what he's saying, but it's just artistry at the same time. It's so honest, And then he was really picking like crazy beats. Like, I think there's a reason, and people don't talk about this enough, but when you like type beats, at least for me, because I make music, and I've been like really, really going hard since 2019. And when you look up type beats, at least like in my wave, in the underground wave that I grew up in and stuff, like I was always seeing like Cardi type beats, Lucki type beats. And I feel like them two more than almost anyone else, at least kind of in that wave, I'm saying that to say like the reason why that was a thing was because he had an ear for beats so much that it inspired so many other producers and other people. And like that's the main kind of draw to his sound, right? And I don't think like beats were like trash on his album, you know what I mean? But I'm just saying they're just sounded really generic. And I think that on top of the monotone flow and the uninspired lyrics, you're just kind of getting a product where you're like, if you really zone out, you might be like, oh, okay. But like, that's as far as it ever goes for me, Like I'm Lucki's the type of artist to me where he has songs where I'm like, this is special. Like, wow, this is crazy. Like, I've never really heard something like this. Like, wow, I'll run it back 100 times. You know what I mean? Like, if I find a new Lucki leak or like a new Lucki old song or back when I was really, getting hip, I would run them songs back like crazy. I go to a skate park, fucking play a song like 20 times. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just the time I was on when it comes to Lucki. Like, he's one of my favorite artists. Like, let me reiterate that for people thinking I'm just hating to hate. I'm not even hating. I'm just, giving my honest opinion. And I think it's unfortunate that even Lucki himself doesn't really see where the fans like me are coming from. But that's besides the point, I guess. I think, too, if you take Gemini and you compare it to every other tape he's released in his whole career, like literally every other album, every tape since his very first one, I think it's the weakest one. I mean, once again, everything's subjective, but like, I even think like SMD was significantly better. And even with SMD and FLM, I started to see the signs of what I've been talking about now kind of starting to occur. But I actually like both of those albums. I think both of those albums were great. I don't think they were amazing. I don't think they were the best in his catalog, but I think they were great. And they had a lot of songs on them where I was like, oh, this is a really good Lucki song. I'm running it back like crazy, you know what I mean? And they had them like catchy, monotone, like little melodic hooks or just bars he kind of would have, if you know what I'm talking about, if you listen to a lot of Lucki. I didn't really find that on Gemini, to be honest with you. Also, there was a decent amount of songs. Maybe this will get fixed, but like, I thought the mix was kind of weak on a decent amount of songs. I'm like, this is kind of like quiet almost. Not like quiet, but I was like, with the budget you probably have now, you would expect kind of better mixes. I don't know. It was against the point too. I'm not the biggest fan of this artist, but like, I feel like if I'm listening to a Lucki album, I shouldn't be expecting Lil Baby to hop on. Like I'm literally listening to this thinking Lil Baby's gonna just hop in the booth next. Like I don't know. No disrespect to Lil Baby fans, but that's not what I want when I'm listening to Lucki music. I listen to Lucki. I don't want to even hear anybody else. And I'm not saying the features were like bad or nothing, but I'm saying that's just how much he shines in his own right to me, and I wasn't getting that on this album. I really wasn't. Um, I don't think there was one song on this whole tape that was like truly amazing or really stood out. Like really stood out. I added for context probably about like 5 or 6 songs out of the 20. Not because I hated every song I was hearing, because I was just like, it's all right. I could go my whole life never hearing it again though. Like I could go my whole life never hearing this tape again and not be sad at all. You know what I mean? Even the songs I added, like I don't really care that much. But when in regard to other Lucki tapes, I'm saying like they're special. You know what I mean? They're like special. And I don't know. I don't even think the album itself was like horrible. I just think it was offensively decent. And I never want to say that when it comes to Lucki, you know. Um, I think like I kind of really covered everything I wanted to say in regard to this album. I'm gonna probably listen to it a few more times myself, but I wanted to really just kind of get my thoughts out there on what I felt about this, because I know, like I said, a lot of people feel the same way I do, and it's just really sad and frustrating. One of your favorite artists kind of just seems uninspired, but it's confusing because at the same time, I feel like Lucki really thinks he's like in his bag, and I think a part of that is because a lot of the newer fans finding him through TikToks or whatever the means may be, uh, they're liking this new stuff, whatever, but they don't like for the most part. I don't think the majority of them really understand how deep his catalog goes and like just how amazing his older music is in comparison. Like I think it's vastly different, this album compared to like almost everything else he's dropped. I think it's vastly different, and I don't know, I guess we'll just wait and see how things play out from here on out. But yeah, Lucki, Gemini.